So when conducting a piece of research, it's important that control and monitoring takes place when conducting the study. Now, this is to ensure that the research is staying ethical, prevent any laws being broken, and so that everyone involved in the study is comfortable with the research being taken place. So what does ethical and legal actually mean? So ethical. Ethical is moral principles that govern a person's behaviour or the conducting of an activity. So by this we mean what is right and wrong. So it would be ethically wrong for a subject to be physically or emotionally harmed. For example, they're becoming distressed or uncomfortable. Whereas legal is following the guidelines of the law, so working within the boundaries of the civil law. For example, it is the law that anyone working with children must be CRB checked. Therefore, in place you have the 4 C's that sports scientists can follow when conducting their research so that it goes smoothly and ethical and legal issues can be prevented. The first C is competence. So this is being skilled in doing something. So in relation to sport, you wouldn't want a researcher to take a lactate measurement if they do not know what they're doing. The second C is consent. Now, consent is vital in any study that is being taken place, and it's important that informed consent is given by the participant, and if the participant is underage, then consent needs to be given by the parent or guardian. Within this, the subject involved needs to know and understand the procedure of the research, so what's involved, any risks or difficulties, and they must be made aware that within the study they have the right to withdraw at any time or stage. And so with this information they can then make an informed decision whether they're going to give their consent to be in the study and for their results to be used. However, the consent must be given in a signed document by the subject or the subject's parent or guardian. The third C is confidentiality. Now, confidentiality is keeping details private, so results should be only shared and used if the client agrees for them to be so. So this would come under the consent part. As well as this, subjects' details should stay anonymous. So instead of writing the subject's results next to their name, you can replace their name with a number or a letter so that they stay anonymous. And as well as this, subjects' details should be locked away for safekeeping and on a need-to-know basis. So this shows respect, it makes the client feel comfortable and reassured, and they're more likely to be willing to participate in the research study. And the last C is conduct. Now, conduct, so this is showing professionalism and showing consideration for the subject. For example, making no snide comments to any of their results, as this is showing little respect, and if any snide comments are made, this can then lead to the subject experience emotional harm, which is what you're trying to prevent because you want to be ethically correct in your study. As well as this, sports scientists researchers have also got BASIS. Now, BASIS is a professional body for the sport and exercise scientists in the UK, and BASIS stands for the British Association of Sport and Exercise Sciences, and it's a website which has a code of conduct on which sport and exercise scientists who are doing research can follow to ensure that their research goes ethically and legally correct. So within this it has a code of conduct which makes sure that informed consent is given from the subject or parent or guardian, that there's confidentiality and data protection, so the client's data is not given out to anyone else and it's all on a need-to-know basis and locked away. Responsibility, competence, so like I said before, you wouldn't want a researcher who isn't skilled in taking a lactate measure taking it, so you'd want to make sure that there was competence, that someone who was skilled in doing so was taking the lactate measurement. And professional personal conduct. As well as this, before the research can take place, the researcher must fill out an ethical clearance and project proposal form. Now, this is then submitted to the ethical committee, whose main purpose is to look and read at the form and look at what and how the researcher is going to conduct their study and why they're going to conduct their study. Now, looking at that, the ethical committee will either approve the study or they will decline it. If they approve the study, then the research can carry on with what they are conducting, or if they decline the study, then they cannot, and they would have to make changes. So they would only decline if they felt there was legal issues, it was unethical, or someone might become emotionally harmed, and then they would tell you what you'd need to change. So it might be looking at the protocol or how safe it is, so the researcher can make the change, fill out the form again, and then resubmit it so that it can be passed and the study can be completed. However, implications of not working both ethically or legally can lead to prison sentences and fines. So if you've not worked legally within the guidelines, such as getting an individual CRB check, this can lead to prison sentences. If you've not been ethical when conducting your study, so making sure that emotional harm or physical harm is prevented, it can be caused. And then if all these are caused, it can then cause the researcher to lose their basis accreditation, or their professional research credibility can be lost as well. Now, if these are lost, then the researcher for further studies will have not as much respect given to them, and this will then affect them later on. So the first scenario is the basis of the research is to test whether the younger gymnasts have greater flexibility when they're younger compared to the older gymnasts, or does the flexibility level improve as they get older. This study will be carried out in a normal training session, therefore no consent is needed. As well as this, there will be more random volunteers who will be helping conduct the P&F training, and the results will be wrote next to the subject's name. So to begin with, the results are not being kept confidential. Now, if there's not a good result, it can lead to snide comments and can cause the gymnast to become emotionally harmed, so that is unethical. As well as this, they've brought in random volunteers who are not skilled, so they're failing to meet competence, and P&F is a complex training, and this could cause the gymnast further harm or injury. As well as this, they have brought in random strangers to work with the children, and they have not been CRB checked. Therefore, they are breaking the law, as anyone working with children who is an adult needs to be CRB checked. And this can lead to prison sentences and fines due to not following the laws. As well as this, they need to have given consent. However, they have not taken any consent as they carry out a normal training session. Therefore, the children, the gymnasts, do not know that there's a study being taken place. And as well as this, due to being younger, the parents are not given any permission either. Now, they're using their data without consent, and this can also lead to fines and prison sentences because they are failing data protection. Now, this then can cause the loss of credibility, which will affect the researcher in further studies. The second scenario is the basis of the research is to work the young gymnasts at high levels and to then measure their lactate levels. This is going to be done by carrying out the VO2 max test on a treadmill. No ethical clearance and project proposal form has been completed, as it is just a basic test carried out within training. Each gymnast will take one another's lactate measurement and will need to complete the VO2 max test to the very end, without the choice of stopping. The gymnasts begin to go lightheaded when completing the test, and some have passed out and been sick. However, have not stopped due to the researcher making them carry on, even though they are not physically able to. So to begin with, no consent has been given. So the gymnasts did not know any risks and which could happen. So if they knew that they were going to be sick or pass out, they may not have completed in the study. As well as this, their data will then be used, and they've also not given consent and failed data protection this way as well. No form has also been completed and sent off to the ethical committee, so they do not know about the study and it has not been approved. Therefore, the study may not be legal, ethical or safe, and it could put the gymnasts in danger. Even though it's part of the training session, they are still being studied, and the ethical committee need to know about it. It also fails competence, and this is because children are taking one another's lactate measurements. Now, they're not skilled in doing so this can lead to physical harm, like bruises on the fingers, because they do not know what they're doing. As well as this, they've been told that they need to carry out the test no matter what, and if there was consent given, they would have been informed that they would have been allowed to pull out and withdraw whenever they needed to. The third scenario is the The base of the study was to see if a lot of high intensity training can cause stress. The study was carried out without the gymnasts knowing, as they believed it was a normal training session. The gymnasts were worked as hard as possible until they could not physically carry on and were not allowed to stop. From being worked so hard, the gymnasts became distressed and having breakdowns. After this, the results were wrote next to the gymnast's name, where the details were then shared with others, and snide comments were made to one girl more than others. So to begin with, no consent was given. So they did not know any risks about what could happen within the study. So if they knew that it might become extreme distress, they may not have participated. Within the consent, they were also not briefed that they were allowed to stop whenever they want, as they did not know there was a study being conducted, so therefore they did not know that they were allowed to withdraw at any time or stage. So therefore they carried on, and it caused them to become emotionally harmed. And that was an ethical issue that would which has been brought up, as they were distressed and having breakdowns. As well as this, it fails to meet confidentiality, as the results were shared. The results were right next to the gymnasts' names, and one another knew each other's results, and snide comments were made, especially to one girl more than others. Now this then caused emotional harm and distress, and failing to meet the Data Protection Act, this would cause legal procedures to take place. The fourth scenario is, the base of the study was to see if gymnasts who smoke would do worse in cardiovascular training compared to non-smokers. Half the group were made to smoke for 3 months before the study, even though they did not smoke previously. The children were told that the smoking would enhance their performance and that no one should be told that they're smoking. Therefore, no consent was given, and one child had asthma and began to struggle when completing the cardiovascular training after smoking, and this caused her to feel ill. She asked the researcher if she could stop the training, and she was ignored. Therefore, they've not been given the option to withdraw. No consent has been given, so the results could be taken anywhere without permission from the parent or the children. She has become physically injured and she hasn't been listened to, so this could cause further physical harm. As well as this, the children have been made to smoke, and it is illegal for them to smoke under 16, and therefore they are under 16, and therefore it's illegal, and for the coach to give them and the research to give them the cigarettes. As well as this, they're not being listened to, and it can lead to further problems. The last scenario is that piece of research was to measure the gymnast's weight, height, and to work out their BMI, see if what their BMI was would have an effect on their sporting performance. The gymnasts were measured in front of one another, which caused the young athletes to become anxious and distressed due to not wanting other athletes to see their height or weight. The researchers taking the measurements were random people from the public. One gymnast was considered overweight when looking at her BMI, however was a good gymnast. The researchers made it obvious to her that others about her result, and made snide comments throughout the study about her BMI. This then led the gymnast becoming distressed and uncomfortable to attend the training session again. No consent was given, and the results were shared online with a video recording of the process where the gymnasts were being weighed and having their height measured. Now, to begin with, no consent has been given for the results to be used, for being underage, for the video to be put online, and for other people to see. As well as this, the researchers have brought in random people to take the measurements. Now, taking the measurements will involve physical interaction, and they have not been CRB checked, therefore it is against the law for them to have any involvement with the children. As well as this, they've caused emotional harm by not taking into consideration of measuring the gymnast privately and not sharing results, because this can lead to snide comments and further emotional harm. Lastly, they should not have shared any of the results to the other students, as it caused one of the gymnasts to become distressed and uncomfortable and not want to train again. Now this is because no consent was given, it is also illegal, and none of the results should have been shared, and she has been individually violated with her results, which she got even though she is a good gymnast.